Each year in the United States, thousands of major crimes go unsolved. When the case has gone cold and police have nowhere to turn, they seek assistance from the public. This is a program dedicated to solving these cases. This is Crime Stoppers Case Files.
Every year, crimes go unsolved here in Southern California. Loved ones often left waiting. I'm Joy Benedict. As a news reporter, I've covered countless crimes and homicides, and I know that sometimes victims of those crimes are forgotten almost as quickly as the headlines fade. So tonight on Crime Stoppers Case Files, we take another look at the crimes still lingering unsolved in our communities. Let's get right to work. It's August 19th, 2007. A gunman approached a backyard party, a party full of young people. He fired into the crowd. 2 people ended up dead, and in a cruel twist of fate, they were brother and sister. Here's their story.
When my son was born, I was so happy because he was the only boy, and it's the same thing, my Beatrice. You know, I was so happy because I've been waiting, because since I got married, I know one day I'm gonna have kids and families. Total my families, I'm from Mexico, and my wife, she's from Mexico too. I got married here, and first daughter I had as name Elizabeth, and my second one is Roberto. That's my son, Roberto Jr. And I have a Beatrice, the third one. They were lovely kids. And I have more daughters, 4 girls and 1 boy. He was the only 1 boy.
Beatriz es una niña muy maravillosa, muy buena niña. Le gustaba mucho la escuela, buen estudiante.
My daughter, she was in Riverside University. She was almost that year, she's gonna graduate. She got a job on a library and the university. I know that she was working over there. And she had a lot of friends. And my son, he was working with me. I was working at Beverly Hills at the restaurant. And the evening, he was going to the college, which is at Tri-Tech. Because I always was with them, pushing them. I told them, I want you guys learn, I want you guys go to school. I don't want you guys to what happened to me, when I got this country. Started washing the dishes, but now my job is cook.
Pues mi hijo Junior para mí es un excelente niño. Tenía mucho amor hacia sus hermanos, conmigo, con su papá, con la gente.
He has a lot of friends. The same thing, my daughter, they have a lot of friends. They were very special, and they're still special for me because I still miss them a lot.
A family tragedy is unfolding tonight in South LA. A brother and sister, both in their 20s, were shot and killed at a family party.
It was about 2:30 in the morning on Sunday, August 19th, 2007. It was a pretty nice evening out. Roberto Santiago Jr. and Beatrice Santiago, brothers and sisters, were at a party at West 38th Street. It's a family friend's residence, and they were celebrating a cousin's birthday. There were probably about 50 people in attendance at the party. There was a DJ. Roberto Santiago and Beatrice Santiago were both in the rear yard of the residence. Roberto Santiago was near the back porch. Beatrice Santiago was dancing with someone else in about the middle of the yard. They were celebrating a cousin's birthday, and basically there were no problems until about 2:30 in the morning.
I always know where my kids are, where they're going. They tell me what place they're gonna be. But that day, I didn't know. They didn't tell me they're gonna go to that party.
Dijo Beatriz que iba a ir a un party. Ya no regresaron.
My wife, she said, they told me they're gonna be some party, but they didn't tell me what place. And I was kind of worried. So I went to sit outside my house waiting with them, you know, what time they're gonna get home. And somehow I fell asleep.
They weren't doing anything wrong. They were just at a birthday party. They were just dancing. No one there had invited any violence or invited this situation to the party. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. At about 2:30 in the morning, an individual walked up to the back fence and fired approximately 7 to 8 shots into the crowd, striking 3 people. Beatrice Santiago was struck in the stomach and legs by gunfire. Roberto Santiago also struck in the stomach by gunfire. And then one other individual who was just struck in the wrist. There were several people who tried to render aid to Beatrice and Roberto, who were on the ground in the rear yard. They shut off the music immediately and called 911. A lot of people obviously ran from the rear yard of the house to the front of the building. And there were several people remaining there when police personnel responded to the scene.
I wake up and my brother Anastasio, he told me, hey, you know, let's go. Something happened to your kids. Your son got shot, your daughter got shot, the both of them got shot.
Beatrice Santiago and Roberto Santiago were 1 year apart in age. Roberto was 22 years old, Beatrice was 21, and they died 1 minute apart at California Hospital at about 3:15 in the morning.
Me lo mataron. Ya cuando llegué al hospital ya no lo pude mirar. No me lo dejaron mirar ya.
And that time, you know, I start crying. I kind of lost, you know, my mind, you know. I can't stop crying because I want my kids back.
Sunday, August 19th, at about 2:30 in the morning, Roberto Santiago and Beatrice Santiago, brother and sister. Roberto Santiago is 22 years old, Beatrice Santiago is 21 years old, born approximately a year apart. We're attending a party at West 38th Street for a family member's birthday. And at 2:30 in the morning, a gunman walked up to the back fence and fired approximately 7 to 8 rounds into the party, fatally wounding Beatrice Santiago and Roberto Santiago.
This is a very difficult time for the Santiago family, but they decided to speak out tonight. They're hoping that if someone has any information on this crime, they'll come forward.
I don't know what to do, what's going to happen to my life because they took away my kids.
This photo of 21-year-old Beatrice Santiago is one of her father's favorites. In her 3rd year at UC Riverside, she was known as the gorgeous one of the family. 22-year-old Roberto Jr. was supposed to start trade tech in the fall. They called him the baby. He was the only boy out of 5. 2 days ago, both were gunned down at their cousin's birthday party.
I can't stop crying because I want my kids back. But I know now they're not going to come back.
They were like the light of the house because Beatrice and Junior were inseparable. They were inseparable.
It was 2:30 in the morning Sunday when the Santiagos were in the backyard of a home on West 38th Street. Roberto sat on the rear porch. Beatrice was dancing. Police say all they know is someone in the rear alley started shooting through a gate into the crowd. Roberto and his sister died at a hospital. A 3rd victim survived.
In that time, I got sick. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to drink nothing. I told my wife, I don't want to live no more because I miss my lovely ones. But I give thanks God because I have families. They support me.
I know the family's been devastated. I've had lots of contact with them through 2007. You know, it's very frustrating, I know, for them that the case has not yet been solved. But, you know, Los Angeles Police Department and Criminal Gang Homicide Division, you know, assures them that we have not stopped investigating their crime.
Porque ya pasó 4 años. Hasta ahorita, pues, nadie.
I miss them because they were special and they're my lovely ones, and especially my son. He's the only boy I had, and now, you know, I feel like I'm nobody, and I feel like I walk because I have to walk. I eat them because I get hungry, but I don't have no feeling, I don't have no taste the food, and I have a very hard situation. I don't have no job, no money to pay my rents last couple months. These things make me remember my son. I told my wife, if my son lives, I know he will help me this time.
I would never say that one person's life is worth more than another. However, this is just happens to be a case that is just so tragic because a brother and sister in a crowd of 50 people are the only people who are fatally struck by gunfire that certainly just seem to be sprayed into the crowd. They did not appear to be targeted in any way. It's just especially tragic. There were several witnesses who saw some individuals in the rear alley. However, there was no one who was able to make any sort of positive identification or was able to describe the actual face. As far as the description of the suspect, it's going to be a male Hispanic, approximately 15 to 20 years old, about 5'10 to 5'11, and at the time wearing a black t-shirt. The solving of this case is extremely important to me, as well as the Los Angeles Police Department. I urge anyone who has any information at all to contact myself, Detective Sean Hansen, or my partner, Officer Matt Courtney, at 213-485-1383. People are welcome to remain anonymous, or they can also contact 1-800-222-TIPS.
Y si algunos, yo sé que conozco a alguno de ustedes, el amigo de mi hijo, y yo los conozco que son buenos muchachos, por favor, comuníquense con el detective.
I can't begin to imagine the heartache of losing two of your children in one senseless random act. We need to put these people away, the people capable of committing these crimes. So if you have any information that could help solve this case, call LA Regional Crime Stoppers. The number is 1-800-222-TIPS. It's July 22nd, 2011. A hardworking father finishing up a late-night shift on a new job comes home, parks just a few blocks from his house, but when he gets out of the car, he's confronted by a man demanding cash. Julian Castaneda, a father of three, just 47 years old, was murdered on his own street.
Yo conocí a mi esposo en una demostración de cristal. Nos vimos los dos que vimos que éramos uno para el otro. A los mes y medio, él me pidió que fuera a su novia y a la vez me dijo que sí podía ser su esposa en ese mismo día. Yo le dije que sí y nosotros a los 3 meses de novios nos casamos. Y él era una persona muy cariñosa, de mostrarme que yo era parte de él y que era una parte muy importante. Entonces, cuando nacieron nuestras hijas, para nosotros los dos fue mucha alegría. Él era un papá que estaba en todos los partos. Él dejaba todo, su trabajo. A él no le importaba si lo iban a descansar de su trabajo, pero él quería estar en ese momento tan bonito de presenciar el nacimiento de sus hijas.
My dad, he was the best dad ever. He put his family first, my mom, my 2 sisters, and me first, for everything. If you're in trouble, he'll be there for you. It wouldn't be like, oh, I can't, I have plans. No, he'd go, oh, they're in trouble, let's go. He was a great guy.
My dad was a loving father, and he always took care of me, and he always liked to have fun.
He was still a child at heart. He had his train set, his cars. He was just the best dad.
Mi esposo era una persona súper alegre. A él le gustaba mucho el baile, todo el tiempo bailaba. Él me dijo algo muy bonito. Nosotros tenemos lo que ningún rico tiene, lo que es el amor, la unidad. Eso es muy bonito y eso me va a quedar a mí mucho de recuerdo de él, que su prioridad fue el amor y la unidad.
I don't think lots of people are lucky enough to have a father like mine.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, I heard some gunshots out here in front of my house, and I think somebody's laying down.
How long ago did you hear this?
Like 5-10 minutes ago, and I think somebody's laying down like that.
You think so?
Yeah.
Did you see someone on the ground or what?
Yeah. I don't want to go outside because I'm scared.
No, don't go outside.
On July 22nd of 2011, at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, our victim, Julian Castaneda, was coming home from work. He had just finished his shift, very first shift on a brand new job, and gotten off work at 12:30 that evening. He was very excited about this job because he had worked for a company for 20 years and got laid off because the company downsized. For 2 years, he wasn't able to find a job until he found this one. And he'd just gotten the job the day before his murder, and that night was his first shift. He came home, drove home. He couldn't park in front of his home because the street was crowded, and he couldn't park in his apartment building because the one spot that he had given it to a relative who was out of town visiting. So he couldn't find parking on his street, so he had to park the next block over, which is California Avenue. He parked and started to walk home on the sidewalk, and as he was approaching his house, carrying his Tupperware lunch pail that his wife had packed for him for that shift, a vehicle approached him on the side street and stopped next to him as he's walking on the sidewalk. The driver of that vehicle exited his car and approached our victim. There was some interaction. At some time, the driver produced a handgun and fired multiple times at Mr. Castaneda, striking him several times. He collapsed on the sidewalk. The driver returned to his car, got in his car, and drove away westbound on Alma Street. The various neighbors in the neighborhood heard the gunfire, looked out the window, saw Mr. Castaneda laying on the sidewalk, and dialed 911. Authorities got there, transported him to St. Francis Hospital, where he was pronounced dead.
I didn't want to believe it until I saw the big puddle of blood right there down the block from where I lived. It explains why he didn't make it home in the night and why he didn't pick up his phone.
On July 22nd, 2011, at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning, the victim, Julian Castaneda, was shot and killed as he walked home from work as he was approaching his home. Based on the fact that Mr. Castaneda's wallet was laying next to him, we believe that this was a street robbery. A crime of opportunity. The perpetrator may have seen Mr. Castaneda at that late hour of the morning walking alone on a quiet, dark street and took the opportunity to attempt to rob him. Now, we have neighbors who were able to step forward and provide a description of the suspect. We were able to produce a composite as a result of those neighbors. And the suspect that we're looking for is a male Hispanic, approximately 22 to 25 years of age, 5'7", thin build, with short brown hair with a reddish tint to it, and a light beard and mustache as if it's just growing out, and he's fair complected. And the vehicle that this individual was seen getting into was a white colored four-door sedan with a low profile spoiler in the back. It possibly could be a 2006 or newer Nissan Altima or a vehicle similar to that.
I want them to do no more harm to other people, to regret what they did to my dad. It was wrong because he had 3 young daughters and a wife he had to take care of.
We're seeking the public's help in generating any information on this case. Anyone that has any information, we would appreciate the call. My name is Detective Joe Espino, and my partner, Detective Bob Kenny, can be reached at Sheriff's Homicide. The phone number there is 323-890-5500, or you can contact Crime Stoppers, and your call will be confidential. In any murder, it's a tragic situation, but more so in this one, when someone totally innocent gets their life taken from them.
Julian's wife was his best friend, his children, his passion. And although they must find a way to move forward, they should not have to do it without answers. If you know anything about this crime, call Crime Stoppers anonymously at 800-222-TIMPS or log on to lacrimestoppers.org, where you can send an anonymous email or learn how to text your information. Remember, we are here every week with more crimes and more families needing answers. These are your neighbors. This is your community, and you can make a difference.